Captain Zeth Kravik stood on the bridge of his ship, the Iron Maw, and looked out at the stars. His thick, scaled hide bore the scars of 100 battles. Each mark told a story of survival on worlds that would kill most living things in minutes. This was the way of the Kreks. They were born to survive where others could not. The bridge hummed with quiet activity. Kreks warriors moved between control panels with practiced ease. Their heavy armor clinked softly as they worked. Outside the massive windows, space stretched endlessly in all directions. Somewhere out there was their next target. "Captain," called Commander Vex Thorne from his station. "Long-range sensors have found something. A new system. Third planet. Shows signs of life." Zeth walked over to the scanner display. The image showed a small blue and green world spinning slowly in space. White clouds swirled across its surface. It looked peaceful from this distance. That was often how the best targets appeared. "Tell me about this world," Zeth said. Vex pressed several buttons and data filled the screen. The planet has water, land, and an atmosphere. Gravity is heavy. Temperature changes are extreme. The surface shows signs of storms, earthquakes, and volcanic activity. There are many different life forms. Zeth nodded with satisfaction. This sounded like a death world, not as harsh as his own homeworld of Verithan, but dangerous enough that only a tough species could live there. That made the inhabitants potentially useful as slaves or soldiers, if they survived the conquest. "What about the intelligent life?" Zeth asked. "They call themselves humans, bipedal creatures smaller than us. They seem to spread across their entire planet, even in the dangerous areas. Our scouts report they engage in strange activities in extreme environments." Zeth laughed. "A sound like grinding stone. Let me guess. They huddle in sheltered places and try to avoid the dangers of their world." "Actually, sir," Vex said with confusion in his voice, "they seem to seek out the dangerous places. Our scouts observed them jumping from high cliffs, swimming in rough waters, and climbing steep rock faces. They appear to do this for what they call fun." This puzzled Zeth. Most species tried to make their world safer, not more dangerous. Perhaps these humans were simply too primitive to understand the risks. That would make conquest even easier. "How many ships do they have?" "What weapons?" Zeth asked. "They have some space travel capability, but nothing that could threaten our fleet. Their weapons are basic compared to ours. They seem more interested in exploration than war." Perfect. Zeth had conquered 47 worlds using the same approach. Arrive with overwhelming force, demonstrate Krek superiority, and demand surrender. Most species gave up quickly when they saw what they were facing. The few that resisted learned painful lessons about trying to fight Deathworld survivors. The Kreks had built their empire on one simple truth. They were the toughest species in the galaxy. Born on Verithan, a world of crushing gravity and deadly storms, they had survived what would destroy other races. The constant danger had made them strong. The endless battles had made them fierce. No other species could match them for pure survival ability. Zeth remembered his childhood on Verithan. Every day had been a fight to stay alive. Acid rain fell without warning. Predators hunted in packs through the night. The ground itself could open up and swallow the unwary. Only the strongest, smartest, and most ruthless survived to adulthood. That harsh upbringing had forged the Kreks into the perfect conquerors. While other species needed special equipment to survive on hostile worlds, the Kreks thrived in such places. Environmental suits were for the weak. Terraforming was for species that could not adapt. The Kreks needed neither. "Prepare the fleet for standard intimidation approach," Zeth ordered. "We will land in force and demand their surrender. Once they see our power, they will give up quickly." "Should we study them more first?" Vex asked. "Learn about their culture and technology?" Zeth waved a clawed hand dismissively. "What is there to learn? They are Deathworld dwellers, but clearly inferior to us. Look at their size. Look at their soft skin. They probably wear protection just to step outside their shelters." The bridge crew began preparations for the attack. Ships moved into formation. Weapon systems came online. Troop transports loaded with Kreks warriors prepared for deployment. It was a routine they had performed dozens of times before. Zeth felt the familiar excitement of an upcoming conquest. Soon another world would bow before Krek's might. Another species would learn that the galaxy belonged to those strong enough to take it. These humans might put up a brief fight, but it would not last long. "Take us to this Earth," Zeth commanded. "Let us show these humans what real Deathworld survivors look like." The Iron Maw and its escort ships turned toward the small blue world. In the depths of space, no one could hear the engines roar as the Krek's fleet began its approach. Soon the humans would face the apex predators of the galaxy. Zeth smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. This would be conquest number 48. After that, perhaps they would find 49. The galaxy was full of weak species waiting to be claimed by those with the strength to take them. The stars grew brighter as they approached their destination. Behind them, the rest of the Krek's fleet followed in perfect formation. Soon they would reach Earth and its unsuspecting inhabitants. Little did Zeth know that his understanding of Deathworlds was about to change forever. Captain Zeth decided to end this confusion once and for all. He would challenge the humans to survive on a Krek's training world. Surely that would show these strange creatures what real survival looked like. Once they faced true Deathworld conditions, they would understand why the Kreks ruled the galaxy. "We will take a group of your people to one of our worlds," Zeth announced. "You will attempt to survive there for 1 week. When you fail, you will see that the Kreks are superior." Alex looked excited. "A survival challenge on an alien world? That sounds incredible. Count me in." "I want to go too," Lisa said immediately. "I've always wondered what other planets are like." "Room for one more?" asked Maya, a woman who had been quietly listening. "I run wilderness survival courses. This would be the ultimate field test." Within an hour, a group of 12 humans had volunteered for what Zeth intended to be a demonstration of Krek's superiority. They packed light bags with simple supplies and boarded the Krek shuttle with enthusiasm that baffled the alien warriors. The destination was Morkan Prime, a world the Kreks used to train their toughest soldiers. The planet had acid rain, poisonous plants, unstable ground, and temperatures that could freeze or boil unprepared visitors. Even experienced Krek's warriors approached Morkan with respect and caution. As the shuttle descended through the planet's toxic atmosphere, Zeth explained the dangers they would face. "The rain will burn your skin. The plants will try to eat you. The ground can collapse without warning. Many creatures here exist only to hunt and kill." "Sounds like Australia with extra spice," Rick commented, looking out the window at the hostile landscape below. The shuttle landed on a rocky plain surrounded by twisted metal trees. The sky was a sickly green color and lightning flashed constantly in the distance. As soon as the doors opened, the smell of sulfur and decay filled the air. 1 week, Zeth announced. "Survive for 1 week and we will consider you worthy of respect. Fail, and you will understand why the Kreks are the apex species of the galaxy." The humans stepped off the shuttle and looked around with interest. Maya knelt down and examined the soil. Alex tested the air quality with a small device. Lisa walked over to one of the metal trees and knocked on its trunk. "The gravity feels about Earth normal," Alex observed. "That's good news." "Temperature is hot but manageable," Maya added. "Humidity is high. We'll need to be careful about dehydration." "Hey, these trees are actually pretty cool," Lisa called out. "The metal is some kind of natural alloy. They must have evolved this way to survive the acid rain." Zeth watched in amazement as the humans began examining their surroundings with scientific curiosity rather than fear. When the first drops of acid rain began to fall, he expected them to run for shelter. Instead, Rick held out his hand to catch some drops. "Burns a little," he said calmly. "About like getting splashed with battery acid. Nothing too serious if you're careful." Maya had already begun building a shelter using techniques Zeth had never seen before. She wove branches and leaves together in a pattern that would shed the acid rain while allowing air to flow through. "Learned this method camping in the Pacific Northwest," she explained. "Rain there isn't acidic, but it never stops falling." By the end of the first day, the humans had established a comfortable base camp. They had found fresh water by filtering it through charcoal and sand. Maya had identified several plants that were edible despite containing mild toxins. Humans eat lots of poisonous stuff back home, she explained when Zeth questioned this. Coffee, alcohol, spicy peppers. We've got pretty good tolerance for toxins. The second day brought more surprises. When a pack of razor wolves approached the camp, Zeth expected the humans to panic. These creatures were among Morkon's deadliest predators, with metal teeth and acidic saliva. Alex studied the approaching pack calmly. Pack hunters. Similar behavior patterns to earth wolves, but with obvious modifications for this environment. They're being cautious because they don't recognize us as prey. Should we scare them off? Lisa asked. Let's try communication first, Maya suggested. She began making low, rumbling sounds in her throat, similar to the wolves' own calls. To Zeth's amazement, the razor wolves stopped their advance. Their leader, a massive creature with scars covering its metal hide, tilted its head and made answering sounds. After several minutes of this strange conversation, the pack moved away without attacking. How did you do that? Commander Vex asked in astonishment. Basic animal psychology, Maya replied. Most predators don't want to fight unless they have to. We just needed to show them we weren't easy prey. The third day brought the biggest shock yet. The humans encountered a dreadstalker, one of Morkon's apex predators. The creature was the size of a small building, covered in armor plates, with claws that could cut through steel. Even veteran Krex warriors avoided these monsters. The humans gathered around it with excitement. Look at the size of this thing, Alex said admiringly. It's like a cross between a dinosaur and a tank. Check out those defensive adaptations, Maya added. Those armor plates can probably stop most weapons, and those claws are designed for both digging and fighting. Lisa was walking around the creature, studying it from all angles. The dreadstalker watched her with confusion. It was used to other creatures running away in terror. This small, soft creature showed no fear at all. I wonder if we could ride it, Lisa mused. Don't even think about it, Zeth warned. That creature could kill all of us in seconds. Maybe, Alex said thoughtfully. But look at its body language. It's not aggressive. It's curious, just like us. Before anyone could stop her, Lisa approached the dreadstalker slowly, her hands empty and visible. She spoke to it in the same calm voice she might use with a nervous horse. Hey there, big guy. You're beautiful, aren't you? Those are some impressive claws you've got. The creature lowered its massive head and sniffed at Lisa. She stood perfectly still, letting it examine her. After a few moments, it made a sound like a giant cat purring. I think it likes me, Lisa said with delight. By the end of the week, the situation had become completely reversed from what Zeth intended. The humans had not just survived on Morkon Prime, they had thrived. They had tamed the local wildlife, turned dangerous plants into useful tools, and established a comfortable base that would have impressed seasoned Krex soldiers. Worse yet, they had made it all look easy. This was fun, Maya said as they prepared to return to the shuttle. Different from Earth environments, but not really harder. Just different challenges requiring different solutions. Could we come back sometime? Rick asked. I'd love to explore more of this continent. I bet there are some great hiking trails through those crystal caves. Alex was already planning their next adventure. Lisa, remember that mountain we saw? On the way down? The one with the lava flows? We should definitely try climbing that next time. Zeth stared at the humans as they cheerfully discussed plans to return to one of the most dangerous worlds in Krex space for vacation activities. His understanding of the universe was beginning to crack. We should probably head back, Maya said, checking her watch. I've got a wilderness survival class to teach on Monday. Though after this, teaching people to survive in the Rocky Mountains is going to seem pretty basic. As they boarded the shuttle, Zeth realized he had learned nothing about Krex superiority. Instead, he had discovered that his definition of a death world might be seriously incomplete. The humans settled into their seats, chatting excitedly about their week on Morkon Prime as if they had just returned from a pleasant camping trip. Several of them were already making plans for their next adventure. Zeth had the uncomfortable feeling that everything he thought he knew about survival was about to change. Captain Zeth sat in his private quarters aboard the Iron Maw, staring at a datapad that contained the most disturbing intelligence report he had ever read. The humans' casual success on Morcon Prime had shaken him, but what he was learning about their homeworld was breaking his understanding of reality itself. Commander Vex entered the room carrying additional reports. His expression was one of barely controlled panic. "Sir, you need to see the full analysis of Earth's environmental conditions," Vex said, his voice tight with stress. Zeth looked up from the pad. "I have been reading it. This cannot be accurate. No species could evolve on a world this hostile." The report painted a picture that defied everything the Krex thought they knew about Deathworlds. Earth was not a moderate death world as they had assumed. It was an extreme death world that made Earth look like a peaceful garden planet by comparison. "Look at this section on geological activity," Vex said, pointing to the data. "Earth's surface is broken into moving plates that constantly shift and collide. This causes earthquakes that can level entire cities. The humans have built their largest population centers directly on top of the most active fault lines." Zeth read the details with growing horror. The humans had built a city called San Francisco on a fault line that regularly produced massive earthquakes. When the earthquakes destroyed their buildings, the humans simply rebuilt in the same location and threw parties to celebrate their survival. "What about weather systems?" Zeth asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know. "Worse than our worst projections," Vex replied. "Earth generates storms that make our acid hurricanes look gentle. They have rotating wind systems called tornadoes that can destroy anything in their path. The humans who live in tornado areas consider them tourist attractions. They actually chase these storms with vehicles to get closer to them." The report detailed Earth's weather with scientific precision and mounting disbelief. Hurricanes with winds over 200 kilometers per hour regularly struck populated areas. The humans who lived in hurricane zones held parties during the storms and gave them names like pets. Winter storms could drop temperatures low enough to freeze exposed flesh in minutes while burying entire cities under meters of snow. The humans who lived in these regions considered this normal and engaged in recreational activities that involved sliding down mountains on pieces of wood or ice. "Tell me about their biological environment," Zeth said, dreading the answer. Vex consulted another report. "Earth's biodiversity includes creatures that exist purely to kill other life forms. They have spiders whose bite can cause organs to dissolve, fish that can deliver electrical shocks powerful enough to stop a heart, bears that can weigh over half a ton and run faster than most ground vehicles." The list continued for pages. Venomous snakes, poisonous frogs, sharks with teeth like razors, jellyfish with stings that caused excruciating death. Earth's oceans contained creatures so large they could swallow small spacecraft whole. "How do the humans survive among such creatures?" Zeth asked. "That is the most disturbing part," Vex replied. "They do not just survive. They seek these creatures out. They swim in waters filled with sharks for recreation. They keep venomous spiders as pets. They wrestle with massive reptiles called alligators for entertainment." Zeth put down the datapad and rubbed his eyes. "This cannot be real." "There is more, sir. The humans have something they call extreme sports. These are activities designed specifically to place them in mortal danger for no practical purpose other than enjoyment." The report on human recreational activities read like a catalog of suicide methods. Humans regularly threw themselves from aircraft at terminal velocity, trusting their lives to pieces of fabric. They climbed frozen waterfalls, using only metal tools and their bare hands. They descended into crushing ocean depths where the pressure could liquefy most known species. "They surf tsunamis," Vex said quietly. "They ride waves of water over 30 meters high that are created by underwater earthquakes. They consider this fun." Zeth stood up and began pacing. "What about their cities? Surely they build safe havens away from these dangers." "No, sir. They deliberately build cities in the most dangerous locations possible. They have major cities on the slopes of active volcanoes. When the volcanoes erupt and destroy parts of the cities, the humans rebuild and establish tourist industries around. The lava flows." The intelligence report showed images of human cities that defied logic. massive populations living directly in the paths of hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. When natural disasters struck, humans would arrive from other regions to help rebuild, then stay to experience the local dangers themselves. They have turned disaster response into a social activity, Vex continued. When one region is hit by catastrophe, humans from safer areas volunteer to travel there and help. They consider exposure to natural disasters to be character building. Zeth stopped pacing and stared out the window at Earth's deceptively peaceful appearance. What about their space program? Surely they use it to escape their dangerous world. No, sir. They use space travel to find more dangerous environments. They have established permanent habitats in the vacuum of space, on a tidally locked moon with no atmosphere, and in the radiation fields around their star. They are currently planning missions to worlds with sulfuric acid atmospheres and planets where surface temperatures can melt lead. The final section of the report contained the most chilling discovery of all. Humans had been unconsciously terraforming their colony worlds to make them more dangerous, not safer. Every planet they settled became more hazardous within a generation. They introduced Earth species to create more challenging ecosystems. They established settlements in the most geologically active areas. They converted safe environments into extreme sports venues. What other species would consider terraforming disasters humans celebrated as improvements? Sir, Vex said carefully, there is one more thing. We intercepted communications from Earth about our visit. The humans are planning something they call a welcome celebration. What kind of celebration? They want to show us what they consider their most impressive local attractions: mountain climbing, volcano boarding, storm chasing, deep sea diving, and something called bungee jumping from orbital platforms. Zeth sank into his chair. The Kreks had built their entire identity around being the ultimate survivors, the apex, species that could thrive in conditions that would kill others. Now they had discovered a species that made Kreks look fragile by comparison. Commander, Zeth said slowly, I am beginning to think we may have made an error in classification. What do you mean, sir? We assumed humans were inferior Deathworld dwellers because they were smaller and softer than us. But what if they evolved to be smaller and softer because their world is so much more dangerous than ours that they needed to be more adaptable? Vex considered this. You think they are not weaker than us but stronger. I think, Zeth said carefully, that we may have just met the apex Deathworld species in the galaxy, and they want to take us sightseeing. The communication system chimed with an incoming message from Earth. Alex's cheerful voice filled the room. Hey, Captain Zeth, we've got your welcome party all planned out. Hope you guys like adventure because we're going to show you the best Earth has to offer. First stop is Mount Everest for some high-altitude climbing. Then we're hitting the Amazon rainforest to meet some of our local wildlife. After that, we thought you might enjoy tornado season in Kansas. It's going to be epic. Zeth looked at Vex. Vex looked back at Zeth. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. Finally, Zeth reached for the communication controls with a shaking hand. That sounds very interesting, he managed to say. We look forward to the experience. As the communication ended, Zeth realized that the Kreks Empire had just encountered something they had never faced before. A species that was not afraid of them. Not because the humans were ignorant of danger, but because they had evolved in conditions that made Kreks warriors look like frightened children. The thought was both terrifying and strangely exciting. 3 months after first contact, Captain Zeth stood on the observation deck of a joint human-Kreks expedition ship, watching a neutron star spin in the distance. The view would have been impossible from any other vessel in the galaxy. Only the combined engineering skills of 2 Deathworld species could create a ship capable of surviving this close to one of the universe's most dangerous objects. Next to him, Alex sipped something the humans called coffee while making notes on a data pad. The beverage was technically a mild poison that would be lethal to most galactic species, but humans consumed it daily for the stimulating effects. Zeth had tried it once. The experience had been surprisingly pleasant, though he still did not understand why humans chose to start each day by drinking toxins. The radiation readings are incredible up here, Alex said with enthusiasm. We're getting exposure levels that would cook most life forms in minutes, but the shielding is holding perfectly. Your people's metallurgy combined with our crazy engineering ideas really works. Zeth nodded, still adjusting to the human tendency to describe lethal conditions as exciting opportunities. Over the past months, he had learned that this was simply how humans viewed the universe. Where other species saw problems to be avoided, humans saw adventures to be experienced. The joint expedition had been Alex's idea, proposed during what humans called the welcome party on Earth. Zeth's memories of that week were still vivid and slightly traumatic. The humans had indeed shown them the best Earth had to offer, which had nearly killed several Krex warriors despite their legendary toughness. Mount Everest had been educational. Zeth had climbed mountains on dozen worlds, but never one where the air was too thin to breathe and the cold could freeze exposed flesh in seconds. The humans had treated it as a pleasant hike while the Krex had struggled with oxygen masks and heated suits. The Amazon rainforest had been worse. Zeth was used to hostile wildlife, but Earth's biodiversity was overwhelming. Every plant, insect, and animal seemed designed to kill visitors in creative ways. The humans had wandered through this biological minefield as casually as walking through a garden, pointing out interesting species and explaining which ones were only mildly dangerous versus completely lethal. Tornado chasing in Kansas had finally convinced Zeth that humans were insane in the best possible way. Watching them drive vehicles directly toward rotating columns of destructive wind while laughing with joy had been both terrifying and inspiring. "Captain," called Lisa from the navigation station. "We're getting readings on that system Maya wanted to investigate. Looks like the third planet has the environmental conditions she was hoping for." Maya looked up from her research console with excitement. "Constant electrical storms, surface temperatures that fluctuate by over 100 degrees daily, and an atmosphere with interesting chemical compositions? That sounds perfect for the atmospheric research project." Commander Vex, who had adapted to working with humans better than most Krex, reviewed the sensor data. The planet appears to have gravitational anomalies that cause floating islands. The magnetic field shifts randomly, which would make navigation extremely difficult. "Even better," Maya grinned. "I've been wanting to study how extreme magnetic fields affect atmospheric chemistry. Plus, floating islands sound like they would be fun to explore." Zeth had learned to translate human expressions. When Maya said something sounded fun, she meant it would probably try to kill them in interesting ways. This had become the unofficial mission parameter for all joint human-Krex expeditions. The partnership had developed naturally after the failed conquest attempt. Once the Krex realized they were not the toughest species in the galaxy, they had faced a choice. They could either feel threatened by human capabilities, or they could learn from them. Zeth had chosen learning, and it had transformed both species' understanding of survival. The humans had techniques for thriving in hostile environments that the Krex had never considered. Where Krex relied on strength and endurance, humans used creativity and adaptability. They could find solutions to survival problems that would never occur to other species. More importantly, they had taught the Krex something revolutionary. Survival did not have to be grim. It could be enjoyable. "Approaching the planet now," announced Rick from the pilot station. "Atmospheric entry is going to be rough. Those electrical storms are producing some serious turbulence." "Can we handle it?" Vex asked. "Oh, sure," Rick replied, casually. "It'll be like flying through a thunderstorm inside a blender while being shot at by lightning cannons. Should be a blast." Zeth had learned that when humans described something as "should be a blast," they meant it would be terrifying and dangerous, and they could not wait to try it. The ship shuddered as they entered the planet's atmosphere. Lightning struck their shields dozens of times per second. Gravitational anomalies pulled them in different directions without warning. The temperature outside the hull swung from freezing to boiling as they descended through different atmospheric layers. "This is awesome," Lisa called out over the noise of stressed metal and electrical discharges. "It's like riding a roller coaster through a particle accelerator." The Krex crew worked efficiently to manage the ship's systems under impossible conditions. The human crew worked with equal skill while clearly enjoying every moment of the life-threatening experience. Together, they brought the ship safely to the surface of a world that should have been uninhabitable. As they prepared for surface exploration, Zeth reflected on how much had changed since their first meeting. The Kreks had expected to conquer Earth and add humans to their empire as servants. Instead, they had gained partners who pushed them to achieve things they had never imagined possible. The joint expeditions had already made discoveries that amazed the galactic scientific community. They had explored the cores of gas giants, established research stations on planets with crushing gravity, and documented life forms in environments previously thought to be sterile. Other species watched these achievements with a mixture of awe and terror. The combination of Krek's durability and human innovation was creating possibilities that frightened more cautious civilizations. "You know," Alex said, as they watched the floating islands drift past their observation windows, "we should probably establish a permanent base here. This place would make an incredible training facility." "Training for what?" Zeth asked. "Environmental adaptation courses, survival techniques, adventure tourism." Alex grinned. "We could teach other species how to have fun in dangerous places." Maya joined the conversation. "Actually, that's not a bad idea. Most galactic civilizations are so focused on safety that they miss out on amazing experiences. We could show them what they're missing." Zeth considered this. The Kreks had always believed that their harsh upbringing gave them advantages over softer species. The humans had shown them that environment challenges could be even more valuable when approached with the right attitude. "We could call it the Galactic Extreme Environment Institute," Lisa suggested. "Offer courses in Deathworld survival, adventure, planning, and creative problem solving." "The insurance cost would be astronomical," Vex pointed out. "That's what makes it interesting." Rick laughed. As their ship settled onto the surface of the storm-racked planet, Zeth felt something he had never experienced before in his long career of conquest and survival. He felt excited about the future. The galaxy was full of dangerous worlds that other species avoided. With human creativity and Krek's durability, they could explore places that had never been seen by intelligent life. They could push the boundaries of what was considered possible. "Captain," Maya called from her instruments, "I'm detecting some unusual energy signatures from those floating islands. Want to go take a look?" Zeth looked at the readings. The energy patterns suggested conditions that would be lethal to most known life forms. The gravitational fields were unstable. The electromagnetic radiation was off the charts. Any rational military officer would declare the area too dangerous for exploration. "Prepare the surface expedition," Zeth ordered. "Full environmental suits and emergency protocols." "Yes, sir." His crew replied with enthusiasm that would have been impossible before meeting humans. As they prepared to explore another impossible environment, Zeth realized that the humans had given the Kreks something more valuable than territory or resources. They had given them a new way of looking at the universe. The galaxy was not a collection of worlds to be conquered. It was an infinite adventure waiting to be experienced, and they were going to experience all of it, one dangerous planet at a time with smiles on their faces. The joint human-Kreks expedition was just getting started. The Kreks war fleet appeared in Earth's sky like a dark cloud. Massive ships blocked the sun over major cities. Their hulls were black and covered with weapon ports. Engine flames lit up the atmosphere as they descended. On the bridge of the Iron Maw, Captain Zeth activated the communication system. He had done this speech many times before. The words always had the same effect: terror, panic, then quick surrender. "People of Earth," his voice boomed across radio waves in broken human language. "I am Captain Zeth of the Kreks Dominion. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender immediately or face destruction. You have one of your hours to decide." Zeth sat back in his command chair and waited. Usually by now there would be frantic messages begging for mercy. Sometimes there were pathetic attempts to negotiate. Occasionally there was defiant silence that lasted until the first demonstration of Krek's firepower. This time was different. The response came quickly, but it was not what Zeth expected. A cheerful human voice filled the bridge speakers. "Hey there. Welcome to Earth. This is Jake from Colorado. We got your message. Sounds like you folks came a long way to visit us. That's awesome. Listen, you picked a great time to show up. We're having our annual Extreme Sports Festival next week. You should totally check it out while you're here. Zeth stared at the communication panel. Commander Vex looked equally confused. The human had not sounded afraid, he had sounded excited. Did he just invite us to some kind of festival? Vex asked. Before Zeth could answer, another human voice joined the conversation. This one was female. Oh wow, are those real spaceships? Lisa here from the base jumping club. We can see you guys from up on the mountain. Those are some seriously cool-looking rides. Hey, do any of you want to try jumping off Angel Falls while you're visiting? It's only about a 1,000-meter drop, but the view is incredible. More voices joined in. Humans from around the planet began talking to the Krex fleet as if they were tourists who had come for a vacation. They offered to show the aliens around, recommended local attractions, and asked if the Krex needed help finding hotels. This must be some kind of trick, Zeth muttered. They are trying to confuse us with strange behavior. Sir, reported the communications officer, we are receiving thousands of messages from the surface. They all seem genuinely happy to meet us. Many are asking if we want to participate in various dangerous activities. Zeth decided to take direct action. He would land with a full military force and demonstrate Krex superiority face to face. Once these humans saw Krex warriors up close, they would understand the situation. The landing shuttles descended toward the location the humans had suggested. It was a place called Colorado, known for its high mountains and rough terrain. Perfect for showing off Krex environmental adaptation. The shuttles landed on a wide, flat area. Zeth emerged first, followed by 20 of his best warriors. They wore full combat armor and carried heavy weapons. The display should have terrified any witnesses. Instead, they were greeted by a group of humans who applauded their arrival. Fantastic. Landing, called a human male who stepped forward. I'm Alex. We cleared this area for you, but honestly, you could have landed anywhere. We're pretty tough around here. Zeth looked around in confusion. The humans wore minimal clothing despite the thin mountain air. Several had colorful fabric wings strapped to their backs. Others carried ropes and metal tools he did not recognize. You do not understand, Zeth growled in his best intimidating voice. We are here to conquer your world. You should be afraid. Alex looked puzzled for a moment. Then his face lit up with understanding. Oh, you're doing some kind of war game scenario. That's cool. We love those. But maybe we could do something more fun first? Lisa just finished a wingsuit flight from the North Face. Want to see? Before Zeth could respond, a human female came gliding down from the mountain peak above them. She wore one of the fabric wingsuits and was moving at tremendous speed. Zeth watched in amazement as she maneuvered between rock formations that would have crushed his shuttle. Lisa landed gracefully near the group and pulled off her helmet. Her face was bright with excitement and joy. Did you see that barrel roll? I did around the cliff face, and she asked the other humans. The wind currents were perfect today. She turned to Zeth. Are you one of the visitors? Cool armor. Is it heavy? I bet it would be interesting to try base jumping in that gear. Commander Vex stepped close to Zeth and whispered, Sir, she just threw herself off a mountain for entertainment. I noticed, Zeth replied quietly. A human named Beth joined the conversation. If you guys are interested in water sports, we could take you whitewater rafting. The rapids are running high this season. Class 5 all the way down the canyon, it's absolutely wild. What is Class 5? Vex asked, despite himself. Oh, that means the water is so rough and dangerous that most people won't try it, Beth explained, cheerfully. Lots of rocks, huge waves, places where the river drops straight down for several meters. You can get seriously hurt if you mess up. That's what makes it so much fun. Zeth felt a strange sensation he was not used to. Uncertainty. These humans were describing deadly activities as if they were pleasant pastimes. They showed no fear of injury or death. In fact, they seemed to seek out dangerous situations on purpose. Perhaps you could show us your military forces, Zeth suggested, trying to regain control of the situation. Military? Alex thought for a moment. Well, we have some veterans here. Rick over there was in the army. He did tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. Tough places, but he says they weren't as challenging as ice climbing in Alaska. Rick waved from where he was examining one of the Krex weapons with professional interest. Nice plasma rifle design, he called out. How's the recoil management? I bet it kicks like a mule. You are not supposed to touch that, Vex said, hurrying over. Sorry, man. Occupational habit. But seriously, if you want to test those things out, we've got some great shooting ranges. Or if you prefer moving targets, we could set up a hunting trip. Got some really aggressive wildlife around here. Zeth was beginning to realize that this first contact was not going according to plan. The humans were treating the invasion as a social event. They seemed genuinely excited to meet aliens but completely unconcerned about being conquered. Do you not understand that we could destroy your entire civilization? Zeth asked. Lisa considered this seriously. I mean, yeah, you probably could. But why would you want to? Earth is awesome. We've got mountains, oceans, deserts, frozen wastelands, active volcanoes, and some really gnarly weather systems. Plus, the wildlife will try to kill you in the most creative ways. You'd love it here. She has a point, Alex added. Where else are you going to find a planet with this much variety and life-threatening environments? We've got something dangerous for everyone. Zeth looked around at his warriors. They were all staring at the humans with expressions of complete bewilderment. This was not how conquests were supposed to work. The humans should be cowering in terror, not offering to take them sightseeing in places that sounded lethal. Tomorrow, he announced, we will demonstrate true Krex superiority. We will show you what real Deathworld survivors can do. Awesome, Beth clapped her hands together. Can we watch? This is going to be so cool.